Come on, you guys, let's go. We booked ourselves into this year's FA Cup final, setting up another final rematch with Liverpool. Now, with how close that Carabao Cup final was, with us clearly being the deserved winners for me, of course, going all the way to penalties, kept it missing. Crazy game. I feel a lot more optimistic now playing against them come the end of the season. And let's hope that Tuchel can finally break his domestic cup curse and secure us the FA Cup final come the end of the season. And with what I'm seeing from Tuchel, some of the tactical masterstrokes recently come the end of the season, Madrid's second leg, incredible performance, got the tactics spot on. And for me, this game today definitely was a game of two halves, with Tuchel being a decisive factor in the second half that allowed us to find ways to, push past and break down a very defensive Crystal Palace team that, in my opinion, was kind of just hoping to nullify us and hopefully find something on the counter-attack from a set piece. For me, they definitely missed Conor Gallagher. And you know what? Even though the rules state that you're not allowed to, you can't play against us naturally, a part of me also sees it as like, I get it, big clubs, in a sense, they're the ones that are constantly loaning players out to smaller clubs in the Premier League. You don't really see like Palace getting loan players from like a Norwich, for example. And I guess in that sense, if they become like key players, bigger clubs have like an advantage against the smaller clubs when, these players can't play against them. That's just my opinion on things. I definitely think they missed it. But to be fair, it helps us a lot to not have that energy in midfield, because in that first half here, I definitely felt like our midfield just couldn't do nothing on the ball. It didn't help the fact that Jorginho today did not have a great game, in my opinion. Second half was better. I definitely felt like once he wasn't getting pressured and closed down so much, he was able to do the basics well. Standard performance second half. But in the first half, even though I understand that Palace were outmanning us heavily in midfield, our wing-backs weren't getting forwards whatsoever. Palace had three in midfield. You had Zaha dropping deeper. One of the strikers dropping deeper as well too. They made sure they could stop us playing out from the back. And of course, by playing like these long balls over the top as well too, like completely bypassing our midfield off the ball defensively, it meant that they were constantly able to find avenues of attack which our midfield just couldn't get to. But regardless, I still felt like there was moments based on his quality that he should be doing a lot better. And for me, that involves moving the ball a lot faster. And it's a bit of a shame that I have seen slight improvements from Jorginho in the sense that he's more adventurous now, playing balls off the top, which isn't really saying much because it's not like he does that consistently. But he has shown that. I'll give him credit for that. But it's a shame that he hasn't improved on his general purposefulness on the ball. I feel like at times he doesn't pick the right passing option that could really just, quicken our attacks a lot more. And I don't know, for me today, it felt like Palace definitely had a game plan to try and, put a lot of pressure on him and force turnovers from the player. Didn't help that COBHAM came off with another injury this season. Him and Kante have been suffering throughout. And in the end, COBHAM had to come off for loftus-cheek. But to be honest, you guys, in the first half, there really wasn't much to really talk about. It was quite boring. A lot of very sideways passing. We weren't really connecting with the midfield in the attack. We were just really pumping through balls over the top, finding absolutely no one. And it just felt like with how the midfield was getting exposed, with how the wing-backs weren't getting forwards, it felt like Tuchel had to make the right choices, tweak the team in the second half. And for me, second half was where the game really starts and kicks off. And the changes made was essentially Werner and Havertz kind of played up front together. Havertz had the license to drop deeper and have that free role. Tuchel offers Havertz a lot of freedom. Outside, Aspie and Alonso were pushing up really high and wide too to really stretch the play out for us. And I guess in a way, we were kind of using like a midfield three of Mount, Ruben playing between the lines down the left-hand side and down the right-hand side as well too. Having Jorginho, of course, in behind them. And of course, Reece James was allowed to move a bit closer with Jorginho at times, making like a 2-2-4-2 type of formation at times. With Tuchel, we play a very asymmetrical system. So sometimes it doesn't even really matter to care about the actual formation. It's just about what roles the players are performing and what positions they're taking up on the field. And for me, by tweaking the team to allow the midfield to get on the ball a lot more, to offer us more options out wide, where we weren't able to progress the ball out wide whatsoever. Having Mount dropping deeper down the left allowed Marcos Alonso to help us stretch the play further wide. Same thing with Ruben as well too. And we constantly, with Havertz dropping deeper as well, we were able to form a lot of triangles across the field and really just balance out our play a lot more. And it created a lot of issues for Crystal Palace as, that we were really engaging their defensive line to have to, come and attack us, try and push out to follow this runner. The midfield couldn't overrun us anymore as well too. And by making these tweaks, it allowed our quality to finally shine through. And the first goal comes from Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Now, before that, he, for me, first half, he didn't look as good. He wasn't on the ball as much. I mean, Phil couldn't get on the ball whatsoever, really. But in the second half of those tweaks, we saw what Ruben is really about. And I feel like I have to start off by saying, I feel like he's been getting a ton of unwanted criticism. I've said this before. But I guess for me, I look at Ruben, and the reason why I got a lot of belief in the player is because I'll never forget the injury that he sustained. The Achilles injury, extremely serious, losing all that muscle around his calf as well. The dedication I heard that he was putting in, the religious dedication to getting fit, doing all the workout regimes he had to do, following diet plans, all of that stuff, Ruben did that to a T. And he got a lot of respect from that in the club. And some people are still questioning whether he's good enough to play for a team like us, which has kind of surprised me because Tuchel's relied upon him quite a lot this season, and he's produced a lot of good moments in games for us when he has played. We can't question his mentality to be able to come back from basically being out, to force himself back to playing at a top 4 level after being out for like over a year and a half, where you then had to move on loan to Crystal Palace just to get that sense of match fitness back and to get that mental confidence back in your game. It's a very hard ordeal, and he's come back. And now during the latter half of the season where we need players to step up, he's showing that he has that in his game. Took his goal very well. Of course, a slight deflection definitely helped, but the striking technique had to be on point to force that deflection to begin with. And for me, when you allow Ruben to be that midfield player that can break the lines, to drive up the field and carry the ball, this is what he is really about. And we saw in this game today, especially in that second half, on like 2 or 3 occasions, he carried the ball, brushed off opponents, drove in the middle, and then he just plays like great weighted passes to the forwards in the final third, not overplaying them or overhitting them. For me, and this will sound controversial, but it's my personal opinion, I've always felt like Ruben is better attacking in the final third than he is, playing out from the back and receiving. And I've always felt like Kovacic is better receiving from the defenders and from deeper positions than his overall play actually in the final third. If you confuse these players together, you have like the ultimate midfield player. But I think for me, Ruben playing this role where he has protection behind him, that's how you really unlock him, and you can see the creativity this guy can bring to the team. So great performance from him. Can he find himself a World Cup spot? Who knows? Let's see how the season continues. But I think once that goal went in, things kind of went in our favour. Now, Palace they had to react. They had to bring on players to try and change the game. They finally brought in Elise. I'm just thinking to myself, this is an FA Cup final for Crystal Palace. Like, when's the next time you'll ever get in a position like this? One of your most important games in your history. Why did you just look to try and stifle us instead of try to, play football against us? It helped, of course, not having Elise or Marcus Alonso. But if I was a Palace fan, I'd be a bit frustrated. But it just felt like, even then, it was just a bit too late. In the second half in particular, I really enjoyed how Timo Werner was playing. I think now that we seem to have a bit more cohesion now with how we're playing in the final third. I think that Timo Werner has definitely come to life. And you guys know me. I don't hate none of the players in the team. None of them. And I'll always change my opinion if I see the right things being done from the players. And I've always sympathised with the attacking players in particular throughout the season due to the many positions they've had to play in that don't necessarily complement the best traits in their game. Now, you guys know I've been saying that. So to see Timo Werner being able to play up front with Kai Havertz, being able to make runs and behind, I definitely feel like next season we need to bring in a midfield player that can allow us to play over long distances instead of very short distances, because then we can maybe quicken our play up and spot some of these great runs and movements that, Werner makes a lot of times consistently, as well as Lukaku as well too. But Timo Werner ends up having a great impact throughout this entire game. Shame he couldn't get a goal, but his important involvement was the assist made to Mason Mount. For me, great weighted pass just away from that Palace defence, and just allowed Mason Mount to have to open his body up and stop that ball past the keeper in the bottom right corner. And for me, Mount again, Again, like last season, like it's been consistently since this guy's broken into the team. Come the second half of the season, he's one of the players that steps up and makes himself known. He gets the important assists and he gets those important goals as well too. It really baffles me that there's so many naysayers against him. And for me, I feel like a lot of the criticism is very misguided. A lot of it's based on their perceived notion that there's an English bias. But it's just like, I feel like they're missing the bigger picture, that English football has evolved and changed a lot more. You know, the types of players England are producing a lot more, definitely have a lot more of a continental flavour and feel compared to the players we've seen throughout the years. So it just feels like it's time to, like, you know, adapt with the times and stop forcing these players into pigeonholes that they don't exist in. You know, Mason Mount for me will be a world-class player. For me, is one of our top 3 players. Again, every season he has important decisive moments from either a corner, a free kick, a long shot, a great through ball. I can go on. And just having players like him in the team who are so good playing in multiple positions. You understand the tactical flexibility that gives managers, where you don't have to sub off players. You can just move certain players here and there, and you're able to maintain the tactical setup and framework. Incredible player. He has to get a lot more respect. It doesn't make no sense to me whatsoever. But regardless, once it was 2-0, we all kind of felt like we booked ourselves a final place. Tuchel makes a lot of subs. Lukaku finally plays. I know Tuchel was saying before that he wasn't fully fit, so he couldn't start the game necessarily. But Ziyech and Kante come on as well too. And, you know, Paris then decide to push forward a lot more. And of course, we had all that space to counter-attack. And honestly, it would have been nice if to have like secured a 3-0 win, especially with some of the chances we missed right at the end. I'm looking at the Lukaku chance, and I'll be a bit lenient based on the fact that he's just returned back from injury. But even then, that shot rebounded off the post, and Ziyech didn't bury that. So that was poor on him as well too. Werner had a great chance to strike the ball at the keeper, blast over the net, and of course Lukaku, with better movement if he was fitter, I think maybe he's taking advantage of certain moments. But regardless, you guys, that is it. We booked ourselves into another final, and it's incredible that over consecutive seasons now, we're just literally getting final places after final places after final places. You know, if I'm an investor, it's no surprise why they're all desperate to buy Chelsea Football Club, because the potential we have, if you make a few more tweaks at the top, we can be an unreal, unstoppable team, you guys. So on that note, I'm Nini FC. This is Blue Lions TV. I'll catch you guys later with some more videos. Cool.